Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a video talking about my experience with the HESI and how to pass it on your first try. So if you're interested in watching this video, please keep watching, and if you like it, don't forget to hit the thumbs up once it's finished. Okay, and I have my computer here because I took some notes so I don't ramble, because you know I like to talk. And if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at, because I'm recording this on my phone. This is so heavy. And I just picked out some questions that I made up myself. So if you have any more questions, or you feel like I didn't answer it well enough, just go ahead and leave that in the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to respond. And let's get right into it. So what is the HESI? Because every school doesn't use every nursing school doesn't use the HESI. I know some schools use ATI. I'm sure there are other programs out there, but my nursing school used HESI. So what is the HESI? The HESI is a comprehensive test. It tests you on everything that you learned in nursing school. Throughout the program, or throughout my program, I took 4 specialty HESI exams. So I took one for fundamentals or foundations of nursing. I took one for pharmacology. I took one for peds. I took one for OB. I took one for psych, and then I took one for advanced med-surg. So I took 6. Wow! I took 6 HESI exams throughout my entire nursing school experience, and then after this, I had to take the HESI. In my program, the HESI does not count for a grade. All of the other HESI exams I took, whatever score I received was factored into the grade that I received for that course. But for the HESI, it was simply a pass or fail, letting me know whether or not I was going to finish out or graduate or not. So I could have gotten straight A's in every class, but if I didn't pass the HESI, my school was not going to send my name to the State Board of Nursing where I live so that I can sit for the NCLEX. The grading scale for my program was anything at or above an 850 was considered a pass, and anything at or below an 849 was considered a fail. And we had 3 attempts to take the exam. I'm not really sure what happened if someone wasn't successful after the 3rd attempt, and I'm sure that just depends on whatever program you're in. But for my school, we had 3 attempts to take it. So there's that. It said that the HESI exam gauges how well you will do on the NCLEX your first time taking it, so that basically if you pass the HESI with an 850 or a 900 or whatever, you have a good likelihood of passing your NCLEX on the first try. I don't know how real that statistic is. I don't really know if I even believe that myself, just because I've done a lot of NCLEX style questions, and I just feel like the HESI words their questions a little differently. I don't know how accurate that is. I'm sure me doing well on the HESI does correlate with how well I would do on the NCLEX. I wouldn't say it's as far as whether or not I'll pass on the first time, but that's just my opinion. Okay, how long did I study for the HESI? Before I tell you how long I studied, this is a very, very subjective question. I personally feel like I have been studying for the HESI since I started nursing school. This isn't something I sat down and just chugged it out for like a month or whatever and figured it all out. It's a comprehensive test. Everything that you learn from day 1 is what you need to know for that exam. So I feel like I've been preparing for this exam and for the NCLEX since I started nursing school. So you may say, well, how did you do that? So while I was in nursing school, I made sure to learn the content, not just for the exams or to like pass the course, but to actually understand what I'm learning and know it well enough, if that makes sense. So for example, I was fortunate enough to have the same professor teach fundamentals, med-surg, and advanced med-surg. I had the same professor for all 3 courses. So by the end of fundamentals, which is the first course, I was pretty familiar on this particular professor's testing style. I could look at her PowerPoints and read the book and really be able to gauge like, okay, she's not going to want us to know this information because she doesn't care whether or not we know this, but she wants us to know this specifically. And she doesn't have to mention this in class. I can just pick out things and say, okay, I feel like I really should focus on this particular subject or whatever this problem, because I know she may ask me questions on this. And so that was me studying for the test. It could help with the NCLEX, but I'm cutting out other pieces of knowledge that are just as important, not because they're not, but because I knew my professor was gonna ask us about them, if that makes sense. So I made sure not just to memorize the PowerPoints, just to do well on the test, but to learn the actual content. So I hope I'm making sense, but that's how I studied throughout the year. But I think I had like 3 or 4 weeks off in between when I finished, or maybe it was like 3 weeks. I'll insert it somewhere. But I had a significant amount of time between when I finished my last advanced med-surg exam until I had to take the HESI. And not gonna lie, I probably took the first week and a half, 2 weeks off to myself where I was just studying, but it wasn't like I was really serious about it. I would just do questions here and there, just like, oh yeah, I have a pocket of time here in between watching Jane the Virgin, let me do some questions. And then I would like peruse my Saunders book. But it wasn't until about 2 weeks before the exam where I felt like I really gave it a good solid push, and all I did was questions. I didn't really try to review a whole lot of content. The only content I made a point to review was peds, because that's my weakest subject. I'm just not good at that. So I made a point to review ped success, and I did the questions in the Saunders book for peds again. Other than that, I just did questions. I made sure that on my Evolve account, I was at level 3 on most of the topics. So let me just pull it up so you guys know what I'm talking about, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your booty, because that's not cool. All right, so I've logged into my Evolve account, and I'm gonna click on the adaptive quizzing section, so you can see what I mean when I say your girl leveled up a lot. So I've logged in. So now I'm gonna go to progress, and then I'm gonna go to detail. And if I go down and I click on all of these, you'll see that I have literally leveled up to level 3, which is the highest that you can go to on most of the subjects. So that's fundies. We can go to psych. I made sure that I leveled up to at least level 3 on the Evolve question. I'm not gonna say and pretend like I did that for all of them, because I did it. So like if you look under med-surg, not all of them are at level 3. So the ones that I was weakest at, like endocrine, cardiac, neuro, are the ones where I made a point to make sure I was leveled up. I'm pretty good with urinary and the reproductive system, so I didn't do a whole lot of questions there. I don't even know why this is here, but yeah, and GI. But that's what I mean when I say I was leveling up to 3. Actually, let me take my glasses off because I don't really need them to see you guys. That's how I studied. I also utilized my Saunders book, my good old Saunders book. And then I utilized most of the success series, so med-surg success, ped success, OB success, psych success, but mostly med-surg success. I really like that series, and what I didn't use was that god-awful green HESI book. And it seems kind of like an oxymoron that I don't like the book that the makers of the HESI have created, but if you go back to one of my earliest videos of when I took the peds HESI, I used that green book, and that is probably the reason why I hate peds, in addition to the professor I had. But the green book it was not a good resource. It's a good overview, but there are resources out there that will give you a better overview than the green HESI book. If you want to spend your time reading that cover to cover, I know some people have used that book and they say it's helped them and that's the way to go. But for me, it didn't work, so I'm not gonna recommend something that didn't work for me. But everyone is not me, so if it works for you, try it, do it. But I didn't use that book at all. After peds, I don't even think I looked at that book ever again. So the main resources I used again were Evolve, my Saunders book. I used the med-surg Success Family, and then I used Your Best Grade. Your Best Grade is a subscription service that you can purchase. I don't remember how much it is a year, but basically it's geared toward the HESI. Like, they give you sample HESI tests. I think they're very helpful, and it worked for me. And I'd also like to mention that all of these resources I've named, I really didn't spend much money, or if any at all. The Saunders book that I just showed you, another friend of mine who got her BSN last year and I already passed the NCLEX, she gave me her Saunders book, and I already had the ebook of that particular version before she gave it to me. The med-surg Success, the Success Family, all those are ebooks resources that I got for free from my classmates. They're all PDFs. And the Your Best Grade, me and I think 6 of my classmates, one person just purchased it and we just pitched in, so we all had the same, we all knew the username and passcode, and we would just go in as we felt like it to do questions. So think smart, you know, like if you know you have a good group of friends and you all want a resource, instead of paying like $60 per person, just everybody put in like $10, $20, get the username and do what you have to do. We're all nursing students, we're all struggling. It's easier to work together, and this is why making friends in nursing school is so important, because I wouldn't have any of these resources if I didn't have any friends in nursing school. So that's a sidebar though. Yes, that was all the resources that I used. And the score that I got on my HESI was a 1023. And now I'm going to talk about what was my experience with the HESI. So here's some background information about the HESI. It's 160 questions, and you have about 4 hours to complete the test unless you have some other, I guess, reason why you have more time. I was extremely anxious while I was taking the test. There were a lot of things going on in the room that were trying to distract me. If you want more information about that, you can click the little eye above here or here, wherever it is, and you can follow me on the day of the exam to see how I felt before and after the exam. But after taking so many HESI exams, I felt like when I was just taking the test, I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I either know it or I don't. I had to be really confident in my capabilities and my knowledge that I had spent the past year learning, and just feel like I can do this, because confidence is the first step. If you go in there discouraged, that's half the battle. That's already lost, because you feel like you can't do it. You have to feel like you can do it. You know, and you can't let things phase you. You're not gonna get every question right. You're not. It's impossible. But don't beat yourself up about things you cannot change on the exam. For example, this is an example. This actually happened on the HESI. I'm not gonna tell you what the specific question was, because that's probably illegal. But I'm still gonna tell you like generally what happened. So there was one particular question, and me and my classmates discussed this after the test, and we were like, wow. There was one particular question on the test that asked about something called, it was like extracting a congenital something, and I don't remember what the word was, but I think it had blast in it, which made me think of cancer. So I was like, congenital and blast. So something cancerous that happened while this thing was in utero. And I'd never heard of it before. I'd never seen this term before. And I was just stumped, and I just sat there and I was like, you don't know what this is. You can kind of break it down, but even the answer choices that were given didn't really fit with what little I knew about congenital blast. So I just did the best I could, and I moved forward, and I didn't beat myself up about it later because it had already happened. I got a question wrong. Oh well, I'll get the next one right, and if I don't get that one right, then I'll get the next one right. I could have let that get the best of me and just sat there and panicked, but where would that have gotten me? Nowhere. And about that question, we ended up going back to that horrible green HESI book, and that term that was like congenital something blast was actually another word for, it was another word for a hydatidiform mole, or like a molar pregnancy. And if they would have put that, then I would have known what it was, but they used some other random term that I'd never heard of, that we were never taught, and I'm not blaming anyone for that, but really, you know? And it was in the green book, but it was like the heading. It wasn't even under It said, I think under the actual like text in the green book, it said hydatidform mole or molar pregnancy, but at the heading it had that weird word. Like why? That's neither here nor there though, because I'm done with the test. But those are the kinds of things the HESI will do. Like, it's not an easy exam. Like, it's there to trick you. It's there to test your knowledge. So that was my experience with HESI. It was kind of all over the place, but I did my best to remain calm because that's all I can do. So when you're taking the test, be calm, be confident in your capabilities. You spent a lot of time reviewing. You spent a lot of time learning all of this, whether you've been in nursing school 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. You have reviewed it. Be confident in your capabilities. So how can you prepare for the HESI? The best way that you can prepare is to study along the way. Don't wait until the month before or 2 months before to really start cracking down. Take little bites along the way. But what I mean by that is, in the beginning of nursing school and throughout it, do as many NCLEX style questions as you can, even if they're not required of you. And even if they are, do more. When I was in fundamentals and I really didn't understand something, when I was in med-surg and I was reviewing topics that I felt I was really good at, I would do NCLEX style questions to really reinforce that. Because I may feel like I know it, my teacher may feel like I know it, my test scores may even show that I know the information. But if I'm struggling through NCLEX style questions, or I'm getting the questions right for the wrong reasons, then I probably don't know it as well as I think I do, and I need to go back and review it. And doing that over time helps to solidify your knowledge base, so that once you get to the end, you have such a strong foundation and your critical thinking skills are really fine-tuned that you'll be able to choose the right answer even if you're not quite sure what the question is asking you. So that's what I mean. So after every new system that you learn in nursing school, or after every new disease that you learn in nursing school, find NCLEX style questions. Go on Evolve if that's what your school uses. I used all kinds of resources. I used the Success Family, I used Saunders, I used Evolve, I used YouTube, I Googled questions, I found them wherever I could, and I did them. And it helps, because you may not remember exactly what the topic is, but if you can remember the question, like, oh, you know what, I did a question like that, and I remember that I picked this answer and it was wrong, but I know why it was wrong. And little things like that can help you along the way so that you can pick the right answer. Like, I know I was so weak on endocrine. When we were learning endocrine, I felt like I understood it in class, but when I was going back to do NCLEX style questions, it wasn't showing that I understood it. So I kept doing them. I reviewed my content and I kept doing some more questions until I leveled up on Evolve and until I felt like I know this. So the best advice I could give you is find a comprehensive test that you can do. I know that with Evolve, there are 3 comprehensive tests on the patient care section of Evolve, and I would do those. And then I would go back and I would look at the questions that I got wrong. And maybe most of the questions that I were getting wrong were based off of therapeutic communication. So maybe I need to go back and I need to review how to properly communicate with patients in a therapeutic manner. And then I would do a whole bunch of questions based off of that. And then I would do another comprehensive test. And I would see where I'm at this point. Maybe I'm good with therapeutic communication, but now my respiratory skills are suffering because most of the respiratory questions I was either getting wrong, or maybe I was getting them right, but I was struggling with them and it was taking me a long time to figure out which answer I wanted to choose. And basically, you just keep doing that until your scores improve, or until you feel confident enough and you feel ready. The HESI is not a test where you can just try to cram everything in at once. It's a comprehensive test and you need to treat it as such. You need to prepare for it as such. It's not something that you can really just sit down and be like, I got this with no prior studying. I don't feel like I studied a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, but I've been preparing the entire year. The HESI isn't just about knowing everything, because there's so much involved within nursing that no one can know everything, but it's about knowing enough, and it's about being able to critically think to choose the right answer even when you don't know enough. So that is how I passed my HESI. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and join the family. Hit the subscribe button, Hello to all my new subbies, and hey to all the OGs that have been with me since I started this channel. If I don't get another video up before Christmas, I would like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, and please be safe out there, especially if you live in a colder climate where the roads can get very icy. Drive safely, eat a lot of good food, just spend time with those that you love this holiday season, and I will see you in the next video.